Hello and welcome to The Court Jester, the podcast that takes you on a wild ride through the sauciest stories of the Middle Ages. I am Cleopethenu, medievalist, storyteller and your host. Today's story is about two broke students who found themselves lodging with a peasant named Gombert. The tale has everything: deception, seduction, and a host who really should have locked his doors. And since we're firmly in Fabliaux territory, allow me to remind you that this was written several centuries ago, when humor was different, consent was a very vague, if non-existent concept, and a wide range of morally questionable stereotypical ideas were widespread. So do not come to me to say that there are a few things wrong with this story. I know. It may be that today you're not in the mood for that, and that's okay. Save this episode and come back later. If, however, you can consume this content in context, welcome, friend, and let's go! There were two students, fresh from school, who spent whatever wealth they had, as students do, both in sensible ways and in bad. One night, they had to lodge at a peasant's house, a man named Gombert. One of the two students saw Jill, Gombert's wife, and he was instantly smitten, and who can blame him? The woman was so beautiful and smart, and she had eyes so crystal clear that all day long he stared at her without even blinking. So he made it his life's purpose to seduce her. At the same time, the other student had been thinking of her daughter, so his heart was aiming higher, for the girl was beautiful and young. Night was falling, and Jill was nursing her youngest baby, so one of the two men came in. Straight to the pots he went, the ones hanging next to the wall, and he found the ring that was used to hang a pot over the fire, and he took it and put it on his finger, and then stealthily he walked away. Why, you ask? I'll come back to that later. But night fell, and the two guests enjoyed all the good things Gombert had to offer, and they had a dinner with boiled milk and cheese and stewed fruit, and quite the ordinary country fare. The first student was fixing his stare on Jill all evening long, so he couldn't take his eyes off her. Gombert didn't notice, because he was only thinking how to do right by them, and he thought the best thing to do is make them a bed alongside his own. And that's what he did. He turned them in, and then he went to bed as well. His daughter was sleeping alone in her own bed, and the second student, who had been watching her all night long, waited until everyone was asleep, and then he took the ring that he had stolen from the pot — I told you I'd come back to that — and he approached the girl's bed. Listen, and I'll tell you what happened. He crawled into her bed and took off the covers. "Who uncovers me?" she says, feeling him behind her. "By God, kind sir, what do you want from me at this hour?" "Fear not, fair one. I come meaning no harm," the student says. "Be quiet, 'cause they'll hear you, and if your father hears you, he will wake up and he will believe that I did something you didn't want me to do. But if you do want me to do that, if you give me your consent, it will bring you great wealth. You shall have my ring of gold, worth over 4 gold coins. See, have it now on your finger and feel how heavy it is. I can't even put it on mine. My finger is not large enough." So he put the iron ring past the first join of her finger, and she turned to him and said, "Well, this is a very heavy ring indeed, but absolutely not, I could not possibly." And so he begged, and she kept saying it's impossible. No, she couldn't do that, but maybe just a kiss. And the kiss turned into an embrace, and one thing led to another, and you all know how this ends. While this is happening, his friend is listening, and he is very much distressed that he cannot get into Jill's bed and do whatever his friend is doing with Jill's daughter. Unfair, I say, for one of them was in heaven and the other one was in the throes of hell, but it was then that Gombert woke up and went out to take a leak. So the smitten student went and stood before the foot of Gombert's bed, where Jill was now sleeping alone, and her child in her crib next to her. Quietly, the student moved the baby and the cradle next to his own bed. It was not long before Gombert returned, and not seeing very well in the dark, he used the cradle as a guide to find his bed. But as he was feeling his way around the space, he found no cradle, so he thought he must have made a mistake. The devil's leading me astray in the middle of the night, he thought. I just came to the guest bed. He went on, feeling his way around the room, and finally felt, by the next bed, the cradle he was looking for. Meanwhile, the student had pressed himself straight into the wall to stay out of Gombert's way, and so Gombert felt his way into what he thought was his bed and reached for his wife, but could not find her. Ah, he thought, she probably went out to do exactly what I was doing a minute ago. Nature calls for everyone in the middle of the night. And how warm is this bed? Gombert was fast asleep a moment later. Into Jill's bed our student crawls, and as close to Jill as he can get. Of course she thinks it is her husband. Gombert, she says, you're awfully excited for the old man that you are. I don't know what came over you. It's been such a long time. Did you think I liked going without it? And so our student goes not once, not twice, but 3 times like it was going out of style. Gombert, she tells him, you have not been idle tonight and you made good work of it. The student, in no mood to chat, went right back into having even more fun and giving her as much pleasure as he could manage, even if it's out of order. Meanwhile, the student who lay with the daughter, when he had had enough delight, thought that it's maybe best that he returned in his own bed before dawn breaks. So back to his bed he went, where now Gombert was sleeping, and jabbed him in the ribs, thinking it's his friend. You sorry, Timmy slugbug, he said. Your exploits are not worth a pie. I will have such stories to tell you when we get out of here. So Gombert woke up, and in no time he realized he's been deluded and deceived by both the students and their games. Tell me, he said, which bed are you just coming from? Where am I coming from? Says the students. By God's heart, from a fucking bout. And with the daughter of our host, I took her backwards, sideways, thrust into her like anything, and also let her have the ring I took from the iron pot. By all the devil's hell has got hundreds and thousands of them, cries Gombert, and grabs him by the side and punches him beside the ear and punches him again, this time in the jaw, until the student is seeing stars. They grip each other's hair and yank, and Jill hears the noise and tells the man in her bed, Hey, Gombert, get up. I think those 2 students are tearing down the house. I don't know what's gotten into them. Lady, leave that to me. The guy says, I'll get them separated, and gets up and heads their way. Almost too late he was, because his friend was losing, so he jumped on Gombert as well, and they both went after the poor man, and one was hitting him while the other was lambasting him, and one after the other wasted him so badly that, as I heard tell, he felt his back was soft as his belly. And when he fell to the ground, they both ran into the night, leaving the door wide open behind them. This little fable calls to mind that no man with a pretty wife should ever permit on his life a student to lodge with them, or this will be his fate. This was the message of Gombert's Fabliaux. I hope it made you smile, and if you are a student, I really hope you have better manners than that. If you enjoyed the story and would like some more, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, review The Court Jester on Spotify or wherever else you get your podcast, and spread the word. And if you'd like to support the podcast and help me get a sense of achievement, head over to Patreon. For as much as £1, you'll get access to bonus episodes and some delightful extras in return for your generosity. Links to that are below, and there are also links to my sources and a range of social media to keep the conversation going. On that note, let me give a shout out to the new patrons. Hello and welcome to Nico and Edgar. May your days be filled with laughter, your goblet never empty, and your humor always historically accurate. Thank you for listening. Until next time.